My husband texted me 4 words that changed my life forever. Come home. We have wonderful news. I smiled when I read it. Things between us had been tense for weeks, so I thought maybe he was finally ready to fix things. I was wrong. I walked through the door carrying our 1-year-old daughter. Instead of a quiet evening, I found both of our families standing in my living room, staring at me like I was a stranger. Before I could even say hello, my husband pulled a folded paper from his pocket and dropped it on the table like a weapon. "She's not my child," he said. My mother-in-law stepped forward, pointed at my baby, and screamed, "Get out. And take her with you." I stood frozen, heart pounding, holding my daughter tighter. And then, right as I opened my mouth, the front door opened again. Someone was about to walk in and destroy every lie in that room. My name is Claire. I was 26 years old when I married Daniel. We met in college, dated for 4 years, and got married in a small ceremony with just our closest family. Everyone said we were the perfect couple. Daniel was charming, ambitious, and he came from a wealthy, well-respected family. His mother, Vivian, ran a successful real estate firm. His father was a retired judge. In their eyes, image was everything. I didn't come from money. I grew up with a single mother who worked 2 jobs to keep our lights on. When I married into Daniel's family, I felt like I had won a lottery I never entered. But from the very first dinner, I felt Vivian's eyes on me, judging every word I said, every fork I picked up, every dress I wore. She never said it directly, but I always knew she thought I wasn't good enough for her son. 2 years into our marriage, I got pregnant. I thought this would finally bring us all together. I thought a baby would soften Vivian's heart. For a while, it seemed to work. When our daughter, Emma, was born, Vivian cried at the hospital. She held her granddaughter and whispered how beautiful she was. But happiness like that never lasts long in a house built on hidden resentment. A few months after Emma was born, I noticed Daniel pulling away. He worked longer hours. He stopped looking me in the eye during dinner. He would take phone calls in another room and lower his voice when I walked in. I told myself it was just stress from his new promotion. I told myself marriages go through phases. I didn't know that behind my back, his mother had already planted a seed of doubt in his mind. A seed that was about to grow into the most painful moment of my life. It started small. Little comments at family dinners. "Emma doesn't really look like Daniel, does she?" Vivian would say, tilting her head as she studied my daughter's face. I laughed it off the first time. "Babies change so much in their first year," I told her. But she kept bringing it up. Every single gathering, she found a new way to plant that same question in front of everyone. Funny how she has none of our family's features. Claire's father had blue eyes too, didn't he? Maybe that's where it comes from. At first, I thought she was just being her usual difficult self. But then I noticed something worse. Daniel wasn't defending me anymore. He would go quiet. He would look at Emma a little longer than usual, like he was searching for something. One night, I found him standing over Emma's crib at 2 in the morning, just staring at her. When I asked what he was doing, he said he couldn't sleep. But his eyes told me something else. Doubt had already crept into his heart, and it was growing every single day. I tried to talk to him. I told him his mother's comments were hurting me, that I felt like I was being accused of something I never did. He apologized, said he'd talk to her. But the comments never stopped. And slowly, I watched my husband change from a loving partner into someone cold and distant. I didn't know it yet, but Vivian wasn't just making comments for fun. She had a plan. And she had already convinced Daniel to take action behind my back. 3 weeks before that terrible night, Daniel started asking strange questions. He asked about my past relationships before we met. He asked if I had ever kept anything from him. Each question felt like a small cut, and I didn't understand why until it was too late. What I didn't know was that Vivian had hired a private investigator to dig into my background. She wasn't looking for infidelity. She was looking for anything she could use to prove that Emma wasn't really Daniel's daughter. When the investigator found nothing solid, Vivian pushed Daniel to take a secret DNA test using a strand of Emma's hair and a swab from his own cheek. He never told me. He never asked my permission. He sent it away to a lab and waited 3 weeks for results that would either confirm his worst fear or put it to rest forever. And when those results came back, instead of calling me first, instead of sitting me down privately like a husband who loved his wife, Daniel called both of our families. He planned a gathering. He told everyone he had wonderful news to hide his real intention because he wanted an audience. He wanted witnesses. He wanted to humiliate me in front of everyone who mattered, all at once. That is the moment he texted me those 4 words. Come home. We have wonderful news. He knew exactly what he was about to do to me. And he let me walk into that house completely unaware, carrying our daughter in my arms, smiling, thinking my marriage was finally healing. That betrayal alone was already unforgivable. But what happened next made it so much worse. When I walked in and saw both families standing there, my stomach dropped. Something felt wrong immediately. Daniel wouldn't look at me. Vivian had a small, satisfied smile on her face, the kind of smile people wear when they think they've already won. Then Daniel dropped that paper on the table. She's not my child, he said, his voice shaking with anger instead of sadness. I remember my whole body going numb. I looked down at Emma in my arms, this innocent 1-year-old girl who had done nothing wrong, and then back up at the man I had trusted with my entire life. What are you talking about? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He pointed at the paper. The DNA test. 0% match. She's not mine. Vivian stepped forward before I could even process what he said. She jabbed her finger toward Emma and screamed, "Get out. And take her with you." My own parents stood frozen in the corner, shocked and confused, unsure of what to say or do. My mother started crying. My father tried to speak, but Vivian's voice drowned out the room. I felt every eye on me, judging me, accusing me of a betrayal I never committed. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run. But I stood my ground because deep in my heart, I knew the truth. I had never been unfaithful to Daniel. Not once. Not ever. That test is wrong, I said, my voice finally finding strength. I don't know how, but it's wrong. Nobody believed me. Not one person in that room. They had already made up their minds before I even walked through the door. And that's when the front door opened again. Standing in the doorway was Dr. Patricia Hensley, the pediatrician who had cared for Emma since the day she was born. I hadn't called her. I didn't even know she was coming. It turned out Daniel had actually invited her too, planning to use her as another witness against me, never expecting what she was about to reveal. I got your message about wanting to discuss Emma's medical records tonight, she said, looking around at the tense room. Did I come at a bad time? Daniel, confused and flustered, admitted he had asked her to come confirm something for the family. Dr. Hensley's eyes moved to the paper on the table. She picked it up, read it carefully, and her expression changed from confusion to disbelief. This lab, she said slowly, is not one I would ever trust for a paternity test. I've seen their name before in a lawsuit last year. They were caught using contaminated samples and giving false results to dozens of families. The room fell silent. Daniel, she continued, did you collect this sample yourself, or did someone else handle it? Vivian's face went pale. Daniel admitted that his mother had picked up the testing kit and mailed it in for him because he was busy with work that week. Dr. Hensley shook her head. I strongly recommend you get an accredited test done immediately through a certified genetics lab with proper chain of custody. What you're holding right now proves nothing. For the first time that night, doubt shifted from me to the people who had accused me. 2 weeks later, we sat in a certified lab with proper legal documentation, medical staff overseeing every step, and cameras confirming the process. This time, there was no room for manipulation. The results came back. Emma was 100% Daniel's biological daughter. The original test had been a fraud, the samples mishandled, possibly even switched, by an unlicensed lab that Vivian found online because it offered same-day results at a discount price. Whether it was pure incompetence or something darker, we later learned that lab had already been shut down by state regulators for falsifying results in multiple cases. Daniel broke down in front of everyone. He apologized, over and over, but the damage to our marriage had already been done. He had chosen to believe his mother's suspicion over his wife's loyalty. He had humiliated me in front of both of our families instead of trusting me privately. He had let his mother orchestrate an ambush on the woman who gave him a daughter. I looked at him and said the words that had been building inside me for weeks. You didn't just doubt me, Daniel. You planned my humiliation. You invited an audience to watch me fall apart. I will never forget that. I didn't scream. I didn't throw things. My revenge was quiet, and it was far more effective than anything loud could have been. I took the corrected, verified lab results and sent copies to everyone who had been in that room the night of the ambush. Every aunt, every uncle, every family friend who had heard Vivian scream, "Get out," now saw in black and white that Emma was, without question, Daniel's daughter, and that Vivian's accusation had come from a fraudulent, unlicensed lab. Vivian's reputation in her tight social circle took a hit she never expected. People who once respected her began to see her differently, as a woman who had nearly destroyed her son's family over gossip and a shady discount DNA kit. As for Daniel, I gave him a choice. Real counseling, real accountability, and real boundaries with his mother, or I would leave and take Emma with me for good. He chose to fight for us. It took months of therapy, months of him standing up to Vivian for the first time in his life, before I could even begin to trust him again. Vivian was never allowed back in our home without an invitation. Family gatherings happened on my terms now, not hers. And for the first time since I married into that family, I finally had the respect I always deserved. Looking back, I've learned something important. Trust isn't just about believing someone. It's about how you handle doubt when it shows up. Daniel didn't come to me first. He let outside voices plant seeds of suspicion, and instead of protecting our family, he chose public humiliation over private honesty. That choice nearly cost him everything. If you ever find yourself doubting someone you love, talk to them directly. Don't let bitterness from someone else become your truth. And if you're ever the one being accused unfairly, stand your ground, because the truth always finds its way to the front door, even when the whole room has already turned against you. Thank you for watching this story. If it moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and let me know in the comments what you would have done in Claire's place.